Unforgiveness is the inability to let go of our why. Someone does something to us and we want to understand why. Why would you engage in that particular behavior? Why would you engage in that particular behavior if you knew the outcome was that you would harm me? Why? Unforgiveness is the inability to look at the past as something that is already finished. It is already done, because it now lives on in our minds as a continual loop of the person having done this thing over and over and over again to us. And because we live in the living loop of this pain, it stops us from making decisions about moving forward. It stops us from being able to then go on, accept this for what it is, and live in the present as though it is already finished. So unforgiveness is really quite harmful to ourselves, and yet we can get trapped there for months, years, decades. And in fact, there is often 3 moments in our lives that we get stuck in. And these 3 moments will bring us through a 40-year journey. And it is only with forgiveness that we come out of that 40-year journey and actually experience the freedom of forgiveness and are able to say, it is finished. That thing that was done to me has already ended. I accept it for what it is, and I choose to move on. How do we accept it? How do we come to the place of understanding why an individual would choose to do something that would harm us? And the truth is, you were never part of the picture when the person made that decision. So it was never about you in the first place. And unless you can come to that place of understanding, you will not be able to let go. I want to give you an example. One of the things that I have been thinking about over the last little while is why often my most unsafe and unprotected space is a sense of I do not belong. And body memory retrieval is one of those things that we can use to facilitate knowing and understanding the where and the when this particular belief would have started. Body memory retrieval is saying the statement, I do not belong. I feel so unsafe. I feel so unprotected. Saying it and then tuning into the body while in a very relaxed and meditative state, tuning into the body and being able to identify which organ that particular statement is situated in. And what we'll often find is that we flip from one organ to the next and the next, but eventually there's a breakthrough point where there's a watershed of emotions. And it is in this watershed moment that we're able to actually ask the body to bring us back to the first moment in time where we experienced that particular thing. And in this place of questioning this strong sense of not belonging, this strong sense of feeling unsafe and unprotected, I was brought back to my 7-year-old moment. I was in grade 2. I was very aware that the dominant message was grade 2. And I remember there was something rather significant that happened at this moment in time for me. I was switched from going to a school that was not too far away, in fact, a stone throw away, to a school that would take me over 45 minutes to walk to each morning. And it was in this moment that I become very conscious of the fact that my mother's and father's relationship created a very toxic environment in our community, because my father, who had a family, had cheated with my mother and created another family. And that rift was continually following me no matter what. So in this moment, I had to query, why would a man cheat on his wife? Not just cheat once, but cheat on a long-term basis and create such a rift. And then I had a conversation with a man who said he had a slightly different way of understanding the male and the need for sex. And as he described, he would give me a picture that I could reframe things with and reorient it within this coding system that I talk about of the subconscious mind. he talked about the fact that for men, just like getting up in the morning, brushing their teeth, breathing air, going through an exercise routine, going through a morning time or a ritual of some kind, sex was very similar to that. It's like if you didn't have access to it, something had gone wrong. It was like not being fed. This was his understanding. But at the same time that he offered me that understanding, he said to me, if you attach some kind of reasoning to man's need for sex, you equate it to something that's a thinking process. And this is very much, he didn't quite say it this way. He said, this is very much a mindless process. It's very much a spiritless process. This is very much about body and the need to feed the body something. And so the interesting thing for me was, I was not thinking about it in that way. I was thinking about sex as a mindful thing, sex as a spiritual thing, which I think is where many women go, because sex is about connection. It's about love for many women. It's about intimacy. So when I think about sex, for me, it's on a spiritual level. It's about a connection. It's about a commitment. It's all of these things. I've never simplified it to folks who only have a bodily understanding of what sex is. And it was in this moment of reflecting that I began to think about the traumatic experiences that we have. Certainly some people are born with biochemical trauma that shifts things for them, or on some level, a genetic trauma that shifts things for them, that lead them into certain behaviors. But for most of us, especially for those of us who have a traumatic moment before age 7, and most of us do, there's a traumatic moment where there's a separation, a disconnection. And it is in these moments that our subconscious mind is coded with our thoughts, our behaviors, and just our way of being, never mind our personality. And so in addition to what is already embedded and how we're going to be socialized, these moments code into us a very passive reaction. And when I say passive, it's as soon as we're triggered, we respond in a particular way. And so it's not about a contemplation that is mindful. It's not about a contemplation that is spiritual, but it's very much a response that is bodily oriented, in that there is a trigger and there is simply a reaction. So in the moments when someone does something to us, it's important for us to pause and wonder at our unforgiveness. In our state of unforgiveness, we are going to want the individual to be mindful and to be spiritual and to be connected to us. But in moments where people inflict a wound on us, it's about what triggered them and what code is now identified in them that creates a response, and that response has nothing to do with us. So they could hit us and that response has nothing to do with us. It's a trigger. They could cheat on us and that response has nothing to do with us. It is simply a trigger. And until that individual is willing to actually look at their own traumas and then do a recode with forgiveness, they will not release whatever triggered response is connected to that trigger. And so it is for us in the moments where we are trying to refresh, where we are trying to move back into our state of peace, where we are trying to come back to a place of compassionate understanding, to distance ourselves from the need to rationalize or the need to spiritualize an action, and simply accept it as a response that is a code in our subconscious mind. And if we can accept that, we can simply say there is a patterned response behavior that has nothing to do with me. And so I don't need to concern myself with the fact that this person intentionally wanted to hurt me. Instead, I am able to separate that altogether and simply look at the pattern for what it is. It is only here, only here in this place of understanding that if this individual could do it different, they would. But as Jesus said on the cross of all of us, and he said it of all of us, you and me, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And if we have a coded response that is about our thoughts, it's about our beliefs, it's about our bodily response, and that is connected to our most traumatic moments. If that code is buried in our subconscious mind, one single trigger will then erupt and cause a response. And so in offering compassion, our only compassion is this. The only empathy that we can offer another is, I am so sorry that you're trapped in that pattern and that you can't get out of it. And because I see that pattern, I choose now to release and accept that this is already done. I accept that it is already completed. It is finished. It cannot be changed. And I accept that I must now move on. And it is here, only here, that we then come out of the loop that we've been stuck in. We then are able to let go and release ourselves into a space of health and well-being. Only here.